I don't know if you saw, but the Democrats are still searching, wondering, mystified over who's going to be their fearless leader. You got Tim Walz out there doing the Tim Walz thing. And then you've got AOC traveling the nation with the Fight Oligarchy tour, along with Bernie Sanders. Is that what the ticket's going to be? Or are they really trying to get AOC to run for Senate in New York against Chuck Schumer, who everybody's very upset about over there on the left? It's a good question. What's really happening? Well, let's turn to Bernie Sanders. He sat for an interview with Jon Karl over at ABC News. Let's learn something, shall we?
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah, I mean, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks illegal immigration is appropriate.
Actually, Bernie Sanders, when he was running for president and wanted the nomination for the Democrat Party against Donald Trump, literally said illegal immigration was appropriate. There was a time during one of those debates. Show of hands, who here thinks that crossing the border illegally should not be a crime? Bernie's there raising his hand. But now he's trying to seem reasonable. Listen, everybody, who really wants an open border? Not me, not any Democrat. You've never heard us calling for an open border. Do they think we don't have video? Do they think that we don't have a memory? Do they think we don't have a brain? Yes, actually, the answer to all those questions is it's exactly what they think. But then the question turned to politics, and Bernie's running mate on the trail right now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Jon Karl asked Bernie a very obvious political question about her future in the Empire State.
Back when I first came to the Congress and the House, I helped form the Progressive Caucus. We had 5 people in it at that time. Now they got close to 100. So you got a whole lot of good people. Alexandria is extraordinary. I am so impressed by her work in Congress and she inspires young people all over the country.
Would you like to see her joining the Senate?
Right now we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I ask you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense? Do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Fine, but I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
What is your question?
Well, I mean, it's easier to. I mean, I want to ask you about your future. This is the biggest crowd. You said you ran for president twice. This is the biggest crowd you've ever seen. Are we going to see you run again, or what's your future?
Right now, I am very proud that the people of the state of Vermont sent me back to the Senate with 63% of the vote. Right now, I'm Vermont senator. That's what I do, and I'm very happy to do it. I am 83 years of age, and I'm tired.
All right,
Okay, so there's Whoopi simp, beta male Jon Karl, a withering, whiny little brat because Bernie throws a little temper tantrum. But we're going to break this down for you because there's a lot going on here, and I want you to understand exactly what you just saw. Let's Zapruder film this, shall we? A little frame by frame
Back
action.
When I first came to the Congress and the House, I helped form the Progressive Caucus.
So now this is Bernie Sanders basically doing his valedictory speech. Listen, he is going to be in the Senate for another 4 years, I think, at least, or 6 years. But he's saying, hey, all this you see right now, the squad and AOC and all this progressive movement, that's all because of me. I did this, baby. You'd be nowhere without me. He's trying to boost himself up. It's all about him and his ego, right? Bear that in mind when Jon Karl asks his follow-up question. But while talking about himself, of course, he brings in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because what Bernie Sanders is doing here is he wants to make sure everybody knows that he's the one who's responsible for the crazy left-wing. And I want to give him full credit. The Democrat Party right now, as of 2025, is the Bernie Sanders party. 100%. There's no doubt about it. And I want to give him full credit. You betcha. The crazy communist who honeymooned in Moscow when the Iron Wall was still there. He went behind the Berlin Wall, went to Moscow when it was the Soviet Union, and honeymooned there, because what's more romantic than bread lines and people going without toilet paper because of communism? So yes, this Democrat Party is definitely the Bernie Sanders Democrat Party. And he's bragging about it. And then he wants to say, everyone loves AOC. Everyone's out here. They're chanting for AOC. But me, I'm her grandpa. I'm the one who started it all, right?
5 people in it at that time. Now they got close to 100. So you got a whole lot of good people. Alexandria is extraordinary. I am so impressed by her work in Congress and she inspires young people all over the country.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
All right, now that is a legitimate and obvious quick follow-up interjection in there. You're praising AOC. Would you like to see her join you in the Senate? But see, understand what's going on here. The next senator in New York who is up for re-election is Chuck Schumer, not Kristen Gillibrand, the other senator from New York. And so that means if Bernie is going to answer that question one way or the other, he's screwed. If he answers, yes, I'd love to see her in the Senate, that means he's throwing Chuck Schumer under the bus. And he can't do that. We'll explain why he can't do that in a quick second. But number two, if he says, no, I have no interest in her, there's no reason for that, then he's screwed because he's living with AOC right now on the road. And trust me, that's what this whole tour is really all about. Okay. So this is a question that he cannot answer politically. But here's the thing. Bernie Sanders is Mr. I'm not about Beltway politics. I'm not about Democrat versus Republican. I'm different. I'm independent. I only caucus with the Democrats when it serves me. But usually I'm an independent. Right? And so, okay, Mr. Bold, Mr. Nonpartisan, Mr. Not Beltway, answer this question then. It seems legit. And watch not just how he blows up, but what he says and reveals.
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
Did you catch that? Did you hear what Bernie said? Real fast.
I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you. Okay.
I asked you, and then he stopped himself because he knew he was on mic. What was he about to say? Bernie Sanders gets up. That's it, Jonathan. I'm done here. Jonathan Karl starts whining like the little simp that he is. And what does Bernie say? I asked you. Oop. And then he stopped. What did he ask him? Before the interview began, he said, please don't ask me anything about Chuck Schumer. Don't ask me about AOC running for Senate. Don't ask me about anything with regard to, because see, that's the big question right now for every Democrat. Do you still have confidence in Chuck Schumer as your leader in the Senate? That's the only question to ask any Democrat senator. And that's the closest Jon Karl could get to asking that question. And Bernie Sanders gets up. Well, you broke the rules. See, this is how it's done. When you've got a Democrat sitting, you agree to preconditions. You agree that you won't ask this, and you won't. Oh no, I won't put you in a bad position to ask that question, and I won't put you in a bad position. Do they do that with J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or any Tom Cotton, any Republican in the Senate? Of course not. But John, so why did Bernie Sanders just say, "I asked you"?
In the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you. Okay.
What did he ask him? I just told you what I think he asked him. But then let it play out.
Okay. You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Fine. But I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
What is your question?
Well, I mean, it's easier.
I love how emasculated Jon Karl is right there. I was going to ask you another question. I want to ask you about you. It's about you, Bernie. And that, by the way, don't you love how that's what brings Bernie back to the chair? Oh, you want to talk more about me? Okay, let's go. I'll talk about me because I'm a freaking narcissist. It's always about me. That's why I change my positions on a dime anytime I need to, whether it's for Hillary or whether it's for Biden or whether it's for Kamala. It doesn't matter because I'm just as big a shill as anybody else in Washington, D.C. So sure, you want to talk about me? Okay. I would have loved if Jonathan Karl got him back into the chair when he said, well, I have one more question. Jonathan, he's such a whiny little simp. I got one more question. Please, it's better if you sit down. Please, I beg you. I want to ask you a question about you. Bernie Sanders sits down and Jon Karl says, okay, now I got a question about you. What do you think of AOC? That would have been great. That would have been hilarious, actually. But Jon Karl, he's not so smart. In fact, I'll prove he's not so smart. Jonathan Karl has no idea why Bernie Sanders reacted that way. He has to ask his panel, the Powerhouse Roundtable at ABC this week. So here he's like, I'm flummoxed. I have no idea why Bernie Sanders wouldn't ask that question.
Look, it's one thing to sort of energize the base. It's another thing to go directly after your party leadership. And obviously he dodged that question, tried to get up to leave.
Help me translate. Why was he so irritated at even the mention of AOC running for Senate?
Well, it's obviously a sensitive subject because he is on Chuck Schumer's leadership team. And so, if he goes out there and endorses a primary challenge to Schumer, I mean, that would be a total bloodbath. But look, the bloodbath is already happening. I mean, people are calling for Schumer to step aside.
That's right. It's DC politics. Bernie Sanders likes to be this independent, and he likes to be a socialist, and he doesn't play the party game, and he's not beholden to anybody, and nobody owns me, except Chuck Schumer's got him by the little socialist nads there. Because if he comes against Chuck Schumer, that means he loses his leadership position. He won't be a ranking member on a committee. He gets staff, he gets money, he gets the ability to be the ranking member so he can direct the way questions and other things go within a committee hearing because it's the deference that senators get. And that's really all he cares about. He's a political hack just like everybody else. The difference is it's been revealed. And the fact that Jonathan Karl doesn't know that, he has to act so dumbfounded. I don't understand why he wouldn't answer that question. Quit your job if you don't understand that, you idiot. Meanwhile, speaking of morons and speaking of stupid, I told you that Democrats, generally speaking, and the media who love them, they think you're dumb. They think you're not intelligent. They think you don't know anything. And Michael Steele over on MSNBC, he basically said it out loud. His biggest concern about this big tour here is not that I want to remind you of something. This guy used to run the Republican National Committee back in 2010 in Washington, D.C., before he ran for the Senate as a Republican. Now he's applauding the socialists who were touring the country trying to get political support. And his biggest problem with it isn't the socialism, isn't the big government, isn't the resistance of conservative values and ideas. No, his biggest problem is that they use the word oligarchy in their campaign slogan. It's the Fight the Oligarchy tour. And his worry about oligarchy is not that it's a lie and that there is no oligarchy. No, his concern is that you rubes don't know what it means.
The thing that I want to pick up on, Eugene, is the question I kind of put on the table is this approach. I love it. Yeah. First off, the oligarchy tour, I think, kind of misses middle America because again, Democrats, in my view, being tone deaf from what the American people are saying. Folks sitting at the local pub aren't using the term oligarchy.
Okay, wait, but I'm sorry. They're in middle America. He launched a tour in Omaha. They were in Denver.
Look, again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you launch it. It's what you say when you launch it. And if you're using terms and phraseology, right, that is not directly connecting people, then that becomes a concern in the process. You're covering this here on the Hill and out on the streets. What are you hearing the response is to this?
I think, I talked to a bunch of Democrats this week who are happy that this tour, these kinds of things are happening just like you. But they agree. They think that the word oligarch is maybe one that they should skip, right? And go with something like corruption or something like that, right? That makes clear that there's a connection there and that people understand in their everyday lives, and one that is already kind of exists in the lexicon of our political environment, and that that gets people riled up. And so that's one. But I do think that
So the big concern is that you rubes in middle America don't know what oligarchy means. And so you'll be confused and you go out there and you have no idea. Which, by the way, some enterprising young reporter for Daily Caller should interview the people who are attending these rallies and ask them, you're fighting the oligarchy. Can you define oligarchy? I think that would be brilliant, actually. We should do that, number one. Number two, Simone Sanders, let me just make sure you know who. So the bald dude on the left there, that's Simone Sanders. Simone Sanders used to be the comms director for Bernie Sanders on the campaign and then worked for Kamala Harris, right? Now, the chick in the middle with the big bushy hairdo, that's Eugene Daniels. Eugene Daniels is the head of the White House Correspondents Association, had worked for Politico, and was in line to be Kamala Harris's White House spokesperson, should Kamala Harris had won. And then, I'm sorry, what? Oh, seriously? Oh, I'm so sorry. The bald person is a chick, apparently, not a dude. I'm so sorry. Listen, I don't like to presume. And strangely, the one with the big B-52 bouffant looks like from Tony Orlando and Dawn, but Dawn, not Tony Orlando. That's a guy. Dressed very smartly. I apologize. I certainly didn't mean any disrespect by that. That person, the former Bernie Sanders communications director and the White House Correspondents Association president, they think you're too stupid. And Michael Steele says that middle America will not understand oligarchy. Think about that for a minute. On MSNBC, they think that if you don't live in the coast in New York or DC or in San Francisco and Los Angeles, you don't have a vocabulary that goes past 3 syllables. Oligarchy. See, that's 4. Simone Sanders, of course, points out, wait, they're doing this in middle America. They were in Omaha and they were in Colorado, in Denver. Okay, guys, just so you know, you can go to middle America. Everyone does know what oligarchy means. And most people in middle America won't come out for this, not because they don't understand what oligarchy means, but because they actually disagree with the politics. They didn't vote for this crap. But you can find a handful of people to show up if you're in a capital city, which is a college town, like they're doing, and if you actually use professional protesters and rally goers as your audience. And then you can get great crowds for television, and they'll all go squishy on the inside over it. But ultimately, from Bernie Sanders to AOC to the panel at MSNBC and every other media person from DC who covers these socialists, the bottom line is they all think you're stupid. And when it comes to the media personalities and journalists who read teleprompters reporting on this stuff, in that case, they're actually right. As Jon Karl just pointed out and Michael Steele reiterated, they are all kind of stupid.